So welcome back to my adventures buying a comic book store. I'm Swiger. I help makers and artists build businesses they love, and I'm also in the process of helping my husband build a business that he loves and actually buy a business that he works in now. So we're buying the local comic book shop, and in this series I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what that process is like. So today I'm going to tell you how we actually got started with the buying. So Jay started working at the shop, and almost on day one, the owner said, "Hey, I really want to sell the shop." And Jay was like, "Holy cow, I really want to own a comic book shop." So we came home and we started talking about it almost from day one of him working there. He actually quit his normal day job to go help out at the comic book shop because my business had grown to the point where he could come to work for my business and then work at the comic book shop part-time. And he had been talking about for so long wanting to have a shop. And I said, "You need to take this opportunity and work at this shop, even though it means leaving your regular job with a regular paycheck and working in an office, because that's the only way you're going to learn what the business is like." So for the first year that he worked there, we knew that our goal was to buy it within 2 years. For the first year that he worked there, we basically were like, we need to put together a business plan. We need to figure out what the steps are. And we would Google some steps and make an outline and then kind of not work on it. And after about a year and a half, we're like, holy cow, we really, really have to buckle down on this because this is going to be a long process, we realize. So the first thing that actually got action going was Jay called the local Small Business Administration office, which is actually attached to the local university, ETSU. And he made an appointment with the director of the SBA. I'm going to call it SBA, but it's Small Business Administration. So they're a government organization, or they're funded by the government to help small businesses both get started and get funding. And they do their own loan program. And we were like, maybe that's what we should look into. So we made an appointment. The guy we talked to and we've been talking to is Bob Justice. He's amazing. He's an ETSU professor, I think in both economics and accounting. And he's the director there of the SBA Center. And he has basically been a consultant for us to tell us about every step of the buying a business process. So we go in, we have a meeting with him. We're like, I guess we're here to ask what we would do to get an SBA loan. And he's like, okay, actually, you guys need to think about what you're going to get a loan altogether, and we can help you with that. And not only can we help you with that, but I'll edit and read your business plan, and I'll help you actually do the math to do the projections. So I'm going to talk about everything that goes in the business plan and the projections in upcoming videos because those are kind of intense. But I wanted to give you an overview of the process first. So he says, "Oh, I can help you with that." And we're like, that's amazing. So he sits down, and one of the first thing he tells us, one of the first notes I make, the very first note I make is that most businesses fail because they're undercapitalized. And I want you to keep that in mind if you're thinking of doing anything that has an overhead, a real big overhead. So in my business, even when I started out selling hand-spun yarn, I didn't have to be capitalized hardly at all, just enough to fill the next order. And then in my teaching and speaking business, even more so. I mean, my biggest expenses are when I travel to teach, and for most of those, I'm going to get reimbursed. So I kind of just have to have the money ahead of time to do that. And of course, my online sales always cover that. So my entire business has been built from the profits of my entire business. So I have not had to get a loan, and so I've not had to worry about being, for a lot of the time I was undercapitalized. I could have grown faster and done more and served more people if I'd invested more money, but I just didn't have the money to invest because it's what was paying our bills. So he says, businesses are usually undercapitalized. The second thing he tells us is you're going to write your business plan to the person who reads it. And he says something that I'm always telling people in marketing, which is the most effective communication is written to the person who's going to read it. I was like, that's what I teach in marketing. And he said, so your business plan is the exact same way. You need to know who exactly is going to read it and to then write it for that person. We're like, yes, of course, that makes sense. He said, so what I want you to do is go interview loan officers at banks. That's actually the very first step before you write up your business proposal, before you work on projections. You need to go meet loan officers at banks, explain to them what your idea is, listen to the questions they ask, and then answer those questions in your business plan. That way you are reaching and meeting and you are addressing their objections in the actual business plan, and that's going to make them more likely to say yes because they won't have to keep coming back And when you have a meeting and they ask you the question, you'll be prepared to answer the question. We're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Also kind of scary. So that's the next thing we did is we made appointments with, I think altogether Jay saw 6. I think I saw 3 with him. And we had a couple questions. The first question was, do you do an SBA loan? Because there's a lot of paperwork and like governmental oversight required in an SBA loan. And most banks don't do them. And we learned that really quickly, that there's only one bank in town. And that's like the first loan officer told us this. There's only one bank in town that does an SBA loan. So if you want to do that, you go with them. But it's going to take you longer and you're going to have to go through a lot more hoops. So you should come to us. And that loan officer was super excited to talk to us, which was awesome. He had really good questions, like how are you going to compete with online sales? What makes your shop different from the other shops in town? Like we kind of talked out our answers, but I wrote down the questions to make sure they would get in the business plan. We talked to another guy who seemed pretty interested, kind of standoffish about the whole thing. We also noticed, and this is why Jay brought me, because I'm kind of empathic. I can like watch people's faces and pick up on what they're thinking or wanting to say, or like their questions aren't answered, or they're feeling doubtful, or they're feeling excited. So Jay brought me so I could tell him this person's into it or this person's not into it. And what I noticed is that were all getting excited about the idea that the shop's actually been around for 25 years. And that is like, so knowing that, we realized, okay, we need to highlight that in the business plan. And the fact that the shop has recurring customers, people subscribe to a comic and then come in every month to pick it up. So that's a big thing to highlight. So we're just like looking for what are the things they're getting excited about and what are the things they're getting doubtful about. And then we build our business plan around that. Also, we ask the question, what is the thing you care most to see in the business plan? And what are the things that people put in the business plans you don't care about? That then determined what we're going to put in our plan. So we had those meetings over the course of a couple weeks. We were scared, did my hair, wore nice clothes. And then we came back and we started working on the business plan. Now, Bob described the business plan as the narrative. So it's a story you tell about where the shop is now, what it's doing wrong, what you're going to do to fix it. So when you do the numbers and you're showing an increase in your sales, your narrative has explained where that's coming from. The other thing you do is you talk about the competition, both online and in person. And so we wrote it up and we brought it to him. And the change he wanted us to make, the big change, was we weren't negative enough about the competition. Now, in the last year, I wrote a book proposal. And in the book proposal, you also talk about competing in comparative titles. But when you do that, you don't want to be too negative. You want to say, this book covered this and this, but my book will cover this. But you don't want to be too negative because your book proposal might be sent to an editor or the publisher who worked on that book. And if that book was a success, you definitely want to work with the same team to make your book a success. So you don't want to bash the other book. So that's kind of what I had in mind when we were writing the business plan. It's like you point out what you'll do differently, but in like a nice, kind way. And Bob saw it and he was like, no, you need to like go into detail about what you think they're doing wrong and how you will do something different. And like make it so that I see that people are going to want to come to you and not those other shops. So we fixed that in the business plan. And then the next step. So like we did the business plan and we thought, awesome, we're like almost halfway there. And in fact, we were maybe like a 10th or maybe an 1/8 of the way there. Because what was next was filling out all of these forms that explain the numbers. So I'm going to go into that in an upcoming video because I don't want to like for it to be too long to explain it all to you. But those were what I've covered today. It's the first couple steps of putting together the business plan to buy the business. So we contacted the SBA. We got an advisor who, by the way, we met with probably 6 times in the last 3 to 6 months and has been such a help. I've talked to other people who went to their SBA and couldn't get the same kind of help. Other people have got the help from SCORE, S-C-O-R-E. If you're in a different country, your government probably has something that helps small businesses. I'd recommend you going to the office. And if the office that's local to you isn't helpful, go to the next town over and see if you can get help there. Because they have resources and they have like spreadsheets that can do stuff that you don't have to figure out on your own. So we got an SBA advisor. We started writing, or we went to go visit loan officers to hear what they had to say. And then we started writing our narrative. So I'll pick up on what we had to do in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to get updates of these videos emailed to you or any other helpful things I come across, I am going to send emails just maybe a couple times a month, maybe just once a month. If you sign up at taraswiger.com/comic shop. So taraswiger.com/comic shop, and I will be sending out these videos and any updates on the process to people who have signed up there. I send weekly emails and have a weekly podcast you can find here on YouTube if you want to subscribe, or you can sign up to get them emailed directly to you at taraswiger.com/list. If you're watching this on my website, there's a big pink box at the top. Thanks so much for watching and have a really great day. And if you have any advice or experience or anything you can tell me about getting a business loan to buy a business, I would love to hear it. Where we're at right now is waiting. We've got the purchase agreement with the seller and his lawyer, and we're just waiting to hear back. Also, he needs to take care of some things before it can actually all go through. Then we go to the bank and actually see if we get the money. So if you have tips, I'm open to them. We're just kind of waiting right now. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.